As you can see, water's coming in. And it's going to come in a lot faster in just a little bit here. Good morning, or at least it's good morning for me. The number one requested video that we have gotten is not me smacking my head, though that you get for free. It's how do I stop my boat from sinking? So there are a lot of people. We did a video on how to change packing and cutlass bearings and blah blah blah, and a lot, actually far more than I expected, messaged in asking, what do you do if you cannot haul out but water is dripping? Basically the boat is slowly sinking and you can't haul out. What do you do? So I've explained to several people that you tighten the packing. If you have the old style packing, you just tighten the packing. Couple of people, several people actually, messaged back that they tightened the packing, water's still coming in. What do you do? So I've explained it in writing several times, and it's very rare that you get a chance to actually do what I have explained in writing, but now we're going to show you. So basically what's going on is we bought a fantastic, I'm shifting around here, we bought a fantastic project boat. And it's got 1 million projects, and we love this boat. It was built in 1969, fiberglass. It's got all kinds of wonderful things, a brand new diesel engine, brand new refrigeration, brand new. But the boat, right before we bought it, sat. And it sat, depending on who you believe, and there's multiple opinions, it sat for somewhere between 3 to 5 years, and boats don't like to sit. So we're going to be doing some painting projects, we're going to be doing some cleanup projects, we're going to be doing this, we're doing that, and the other. We've actually already moved the boat 1,000 miles down the east coast. We're in Florida now, and we started quite a ways north of Florida. So I keep forgetting to do videos. So the first time that I did the packing, I forgot to do a video. Probably should, but you'll get to see basically what you do now, and I'll fill in. But this is when you have tightened the packing and the water keeps coming in anyway. So we'll be doing a bunch of videos on this boat, but this is the first one that I've remembered to do. And so this is the intro, longer than usual, but welcome to our new project boat. Welcome to a very rare video to get to see. And now I'm going to shift while you're not watching, so you don't have to watch me grunting again. And I'll go over tools, what we're doing, the steps, a little bit of the emotional stuff, because you're going to open the thing up and the boat will truly start sinking. Water will pour in. Your heart will start pounding, but if you get to see it here, it'll make it a lot easier for you. You get to actually see how much of it is really happening, and you will get to see. So I'm going to have Vidi turn off the camera for you. One of our famous sailboat care and repair fractions of a second. For me, it won't be a fraction of a second. I have to turn this old fat carcass around. So see you in a fraction of a second. Alright, so I'm back and I'm turned around. And you didn't have to watch any of the grunting. So the first thing that we're going to do, that's kind of a secret insider's technique, is with these packing glands you have the big nut that's got the packing inside of it. It squeezes against the body of the actual gland system that the shaft comes through. And when you tighten that nut, it squeezes the packing, which slows down the water. You don't want to completely stop the water because it needs to be cooled by the water, but you don't want water coming in when you're just sitting still, so there's a wonderful balancing act to that. But behind that big nut, there's a little nut, and that little nut is the lock nut. So the propeller shaft is spinning in there, there's torque against the big nut, and it theoretically can and physically can just spin that nut off. So there's a lock nut, and you want to lock that lock nut down pretty good to keep the thing from opening up. It's usually not something that you're looking at. So when I tightened this before, I did a beautiful job of tightening it, and so now I'm going to have to use the secret technique to untighten it again. I use a cold chisel. I try not to have it be too sharp because you're using it on bronze, but I use a cold chisel and a hammer, and you just lay it against the edge of that nut, whack kind of gently because you're whacking on bronze, and all you want to do is break that thing loose. You don't want to go nuts. And then after that, the lock nut backs away, and then you can do anything you want with the big nut. Before, and I already did it so I can't really show it to you, before I do any of this, I always take a bronze wire brush and clean out the threads. Why make this difficult for yourself and difficult for the boat if you don't have to? You can go in there, clean it really good, it's easy to do, and it will save you a lot of sweat and effort and possible problems and hang-ups. So I've already done it, so I can't show it to you, but you clean the threads really good. I spray a little bit of lubricant on. It's still lubed from the last time that I forgot to do a video. So it's okay. So at this point, I'm just going to reach in. Vidi will show you. Give this thing a few taps to free up the lock nut, and I'll back the lock nut off, and then we'll get into the next explanation, because too much yapping, not enough showing, nobody remembers anything. So I'm sticking my head in the hole. See you in a second. All right, so here we go. We are up against the edge. You want to give it a couple little whacks just to seat it, and I angle it over the direction that I want it to go, and give it a couple of little whacks. And there it goes. You can see it's starting to spin. That's it. That's all you need to do. And then this thing moves out of the way. So that's it for chapter 1. Chapter 2, I'm going to go over tools and everything before we do it. And then we'll practice sinking the boat so that it actually stops sinking. So, what we're going to do now, and sorry for being redundant, but I just want to make sure you understand what's happening. Inside of that big nut that you saw, and you'll see a lot more in just a second, is the packing, which is basically square string. There's high-tech packing and there's really high-tech packing. But on this old boat, it's just square string. It's got a bunch of wax and other stuff in it. And the shaft spins inside of it. When you squeeze it, it allows the shaft to spin, but the water to not come in too fast. When that stuff gets old, sits too long, gets old, which is the problem that we have, there's not enough of the waxy stuff left. And so it just starts to eat the string. It's called the packing, but it's high-tech square string. So it starts to eat the packing, and then it will just continuously get worse. There's not enough stuff to lube it. It eats more of the packing. Not enough stuff to lube it. Eats more of the packing. Life is not good. So what we're going to do is feed it, basically. So I'm not sponsored by Syntef, but I should be, because I use so much of their stuff and I promote it so much that I should be sponsored by them. If there's anybody out there from Syntef, send me a check. But in the meantime, it's incredibly good stuff. It is a synthetic Teflon waterproof grease, and it is made specifically for these packings, and it is not easy to get. Don't think that you're going to just wander down to your local West Marine and say, give me the Syntef, because they almost never have it. You can order it, and you can order it from a lot of places. I've never ordered it from Syntef directly, which might be why they're not sponsoring me. I figure this stuff out as I go. But anyway, you can probably order it from Syntef directly, but either way, you can get it from West Marine, Boat US, any of the big boating stores, you just usually have to order it. But this is the stuff. It's a little tube. There is a bigger tube of it, but this is the usual size that it comes in. There's a little kit that you can get and blah blah blah, but it's a snazzy blue grease. So what we're going to do is re-lubricate our packing because we can't haul out and change it. And some people have larger than I do. They actually change their packing in the water. Me personally, I don't like to do that. I've been forced to do it a couple of times and I really don't like it. Getting the packing out of that nut sometimes goes really smoothly, sometimes not. And while water is pouring in, it's not the time I want to find out that it's not going smoothly. So I have turned on both of my automatic bilge pumps. We have freed up our locking nut. We have our Syntef ready. And what we're going to do, I have a rag, just in case the water comes in too fast, something goes wrong. I can tie the rag, I can wipe my hands with it, wipe my brow with it, but I can tie the rag around where the water is pouring in and actually slow it down pretty substantially. I shouldn't need to do that today. I might do it just to show you. But we have it ready just in case we need it. The big thing is, if you're ready, things don't go wrong, you have a few more things to put away when you're done. If you're not ready and things go wrong, it's terrifying because water's coming in. And so minimizing terrifying is good. So, pardon me for making this so long, but I entertain myself. Hopefully I entertain you. But so we have our lock nut backed off. I'm about to reach down there and loosen the... As a matter of fact, I'm going to remove the packing nut. Water's going to spray all over the place, and that's probably the greatest service of this video, is you'll get to see how much water splashes all over the place. And that water will splash, and it's terrifying, but you'll be okay. This stuff is completely waterproof. So on the off chance that there's enough water splashing that you can't see what I'm doing, I will back the nut off, and then between the shaft and the nut, there's a little groove, there's a little opening where the packing lives. And I'm going to just squeeze this Syntef into that groove. And I'm going to go all the way around, depending on my mood and access and blah blah blah. I usually spin the nut while I'm squeezing the Syntef, and that way it squirts the Syntef in. You don't need a lot, you're just re-lubricating the stuff, the packing, but you need some. You don't have to worry about ultra high tech. If you miss a little spot, if you find your heart beating too fast and you get quarter or halfway around and you say screw this, and you screw the nut back on. If you got a decent amount in, the shaft will get it to move around. Not as quickly, not as smoothly, but the shaft will get it to move around and it'll still work. But if you can get just a little bit all the way around, it seals, it lubricates, it is wonderful. And truth be told, our bottom paint is actually alright, just the boat sat for so long that the packing's gone bad. I have done this in the past where 2 years after doing this, the packing was still great. So we may actually end up going that route, though I kind of want to haul this boat out. But anyway, we don't need to talk about that or my shoe size or any of the other stuff that's entirely irrelevant. Let's show you how you get this stuff done. And pardon me if my heart doesn't race fast enough. I've done this enough times that I actually am probably too mellow. But the big thing that you get out of this is, yes, it's terrifying. Even for me, I have to admit, it's a weird damn thing to watch water pouring into the boat. But, oh, and one last thing, because I might forget to tell you later. Pardon me for yapping, but it's what I do. When you have the nut off, because there is that spacing in there, the nut can wobble. And so you've got the grease back in, you're coming back up. You very, very, very carefully want to make sure that you do not cross thread the nut. You want to take your time. Even as you bring it up tight, the water will slow down a lot. But you want to spin the nut backwards, the wrong way, like you're taking it off to make sure that it lines up correctly. Then spin it the correct way to get it on. If you're freaked out, water's pouring in, you jam that thing on, it's slightly cockeyed, and you start spinning it, bronze on bronze can damage the threads. Damaged threads, the thing won't go back on. Now you have a problem. So even if you stop, I don't smoke cigarettes, but you smoke a cigarette, take a shot of Jim Beam, kiss your lovely wife, and then screw the thing back on. Yes, water will pour in, but you're actually better off than jamming that thing in there too quick. So just remember, no matter how fast your heart's beating, when it comes time to put that thing back on, just remember, you're bronze on bronze, so I mean, you don't have to make yourself nuts, but take that extra little bit of time to make sure it's lined up right, goes on smooth, and that's one thing that the grease will help with. It will go on smooth. So now, you're freed from my incessant, never-ending yapping, and let's get to it. Alright, so here we go. So I reach down, and this is pretty snug, so I'm going to grab it with my giant channel locks, which got misadjusted while I was screwing around. Grab it with my giant channel locks, just give it a little nudge. There we go. And now it will be hand doable. And actually, you know what? I'm old, fat, and lazy, so I'm gonna do some more with the channel locks. And we'll get this thing moving. There you can see it's spinning the shaft with it, so it's certainly well adjusted to the shaft. And seeing it spin this much tells me that that packing is very old, or possibly that there might not be enough. There's different schools of thought. As with everything, boating, women, cars, everyone has an opinion, and we're all just as right as we can be. And this one, wow, this has been tightened many times. Here we start to go there. So, some people like a minimum of 2 wraps. Some people like a minimum of 3. Some people don't care. And, alright, so you can see the water starting to drip faster. You can probably hear it dribbling. So we're getting our Syntef ready. We're making sure that our diapers are tight. And as you can see, water's coming in. And it's going to come in a lot faster in just a little bit here. Alright, so now yep, I've dropped a little bit there, so I'm gonna smear it in with my finger. And sometimes you have to do the finger smear, sometimes you don't. Looks like little bits are getting washed out. So we have quite a bit in there. The cut on my finger happened before, so don't worry about your fingers getting chopped off. Now this one lined up instantly, which is sweet. So I cheated and didn't do the spin backwards like I told you to do. But it just lined up so damn sweet. And that's it. So when you read about it, when you hear about it, when it's this terrifying thing, the boat is sinking! Yeah, technically the boat is sinking. But that's the actuality of what's happening. Now, the bigger your shaft is, the more water will come in. The smaller your shaft is, less water will come in. It just has to do with the amount of space around the shaft. As the shaft gets bigger, it has more space around it, which allows more water to come in. But really, that was the adventure. So I'm now going to tighten this thing down. I will basically tighten it back to just short of where it was. I may or may not need to adjust it later, but I won't bore the tears out of you with that. I've already bored the tears out of you with everything else. And I had cut my finger before. Don't worry about, you will not cut yourself on this. There's nothing sharp here. There's no... And that's the gig. So there's now Syntef in there. That packing will now last for a long time. The wild thing is, if you adjust it incorrectly and there's not enough cooling water, the Syntef will save you. You still want to try to adjust it correctly, but having a bunch of Syntef in there actually saves you from not adjusting it quite correctly, quite quickly enough. So that's always nice. And trying to think of anything else I should tell you, and I can't think of anything. And so if you have any questions, if there's anything I left out, send a message, lovely Videy, that you can't see but I can. Might be why I actually do these videos, is I get to sit there and look at my lovely Videy. But anyway, you can send her a message, and she and I will respond to it, answer any questions that you have. But that's the gig, and just for the giggles, we will probably start doing a little bit of travel video stuff, because it's part of our project now, is traveling on this boat. And it's funny, Delos was just a few boats down from us for 2 or 3 days, and it was very interesting realizing, holy moly, we've just traveled more than 1,000 miles down the coast. We saw amazing things. We did all kinds of cool stuff. There's incredible things I could have taught to anyone who needed to know, tying up to pilings instead of cleats, and oh my goodness, how people tie up to cleats. That's a comedy show, better than the Three Stooges. Tricky bridges, funny places, nasty currents, all kinds of stuff. So we may actually start doing that, and if so, you found out about it first here. But anyway, I keep promising to stop yapping at you. There's nothing else here that I can show you that's worth showing you. Do good, see you around, enjoy your boat.